Coming up, President Yoon Suk-yeol orders truckers in the cement industry to return to work, vowing there will be no compromise in dealing with the truck driver strike. However, the unionized truckers say they will not back down. Prominent global figures voiced their support for protesters opposing China's zero-COVID policy, with demonstrations expanding across the country. Plus, World Cup Groups A and B reach a conclusion with the Netherlands, Senegal, England, and the U.S. through to the round of 16. We have a summary of all the action. Good morning. Welcome to New Day in Arirang. Our top story this morning, the government takes a hardline approach on the nationwide cargo truckers strike. President Yoon issued an executive order requiring the drivers to return to work as he calls the walkout illegal. Our Kim Bo-kyung starts us off this morning.
In response to the ongoing strike by truck drivers, President Yoon Suk-yeol has issued an executive order requiring truckers in the cement industry to get back to work to prevent further damage to the economy. In Tuesday's cabinet meeting, he said that there is no legitimate reason for the Cargo Truckers Solidarity Union to hold the national economy hostage for personal gain.
정부는 오늘 우리 민생과 국가 경제에 초래될 더 심각한 위기를 막기 위해 부득이 시멘트 분야의 운송 거부자에 대해 업무 개시 명령을 발동합니다. 경제는 한 번 멈추면 돌이키기 어렵고 다시 궤도에 올리는 데는 많은 희생과 비용이 따릅니다.
In dealing with labor issues, President Yoon pledged to follow the Constitution, insisting he won't negotiate over behavior that is illegal. According to the presidential spokesperson, Yoon also added that if truckers continue to request what is without proper justification, the government will deal with the issue sternly using all possible measures. The cement industry is the first to receive the order, as the government deemed the sector the most in need of logistical operations returning to normal. The order is based on Article 14 of the Trucking Transport Business Act, which was introduced in 2004. After cabinet meeting approval, the land minister needs to report to National Assembly why the order was issued. This is reportedly scheduled to happen as early as Wednesday, but National Assembly doesn't have the power to reject the issuance of an order, as this would be the president's authority. The transport minister began delivering the order to around 2,500 cement truckers on Tuesday afternoon. After the notice is delivered to drivers, they need to have returned to work before midnight the following day. The minister said those who try to avoid receiving the notice would face not only a criminal penalty, but more severe punishments, and those who violate without reasonable cause could face up to 3 years in prison and a roughly $22,000 fine.
Invoking an executive order to return to work is not to punish the drivers and operators. It is an inevitable measure to restore the national logistics system and minimize damage to the national economy by having cargo transportation drivers return to work.
The land minister added the government will do its best to normalize the cargo transportation system. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Now, staying with the ongoing strike, as you saw, the government urges truckers to stop, warning those who refuse will be dealt with strictly in accordance with the law. However, the union vows to continue the protest. Our Ji-young brings the updates.
The South Korean government has warned that any illegalities by striking truckers will be dealt with strictly and according to law and principles. Following President Yoon Suk-yeol's executive order, related ministries on Tuesday held a joint briefing on the nationwide cargo truckers' strike over guaranteed wages. Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho denounced them, saying, despite the ongoing economic crisis, cargo truckers are taking the country's economy hostage and shaking its industrial foundation just for their own interests.
Due to the strike, which started last Thursday, cement deliveries have dropped by more than 90% and ready-mixed concrete construction has stopped at more than 50% of construction sites. Also, gas stations are struggling due to inventory shortages.
He urged cargo drivers who grounded their trucks to immediately return to work. If they refuse, he warned that they'll be suspended, disqualified, and could face up to 3 years in prison or a fine of up to $23,000. However, the Cargo Trucker Solidarity, affiliated with the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions and related civic groups, said they'll continue to protest for minimum freight rates to be made permanent to improve their working conditions.
The safe trucking freight rate system to prevent dangerous driving only applies to 6% of all cargo truck drivers. Those who are not under the system run the risk of having to work long hours and falling asleep at the wheel.
The strike talks between the government and the truckers ended without any headway on Monday, but both parties are set to have another meeting on Wednesday. 엄지영, 아리랑 뉴스.
Joining the current series of strikes in South Korea are Seoul subway system workers whose strike on Wednesday is affecting lines 1 to 8 as well as parts of 9. Seoul Metro workers started their strike at 6:30 a.m. on Wednesday as the labor union and the employer couldn't come to an agreement after 8 hours of talks. Seoul Metro and Seoul City have put in extra workers to make sure the early morning rush hour isn't affected, but during the day, the schedule will be cut by nearly 30%. During the evening rush hour, the operation rate will be around 85% compared to a normal weekday. This is first strike in 6 years, as it comes with Seoul Metro announcing plans to downsize the company by 10% by 2026 due to the rising debt from operations. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol will co-host the second Summit for Democracy. The other co-hosts are U.S. President Joe Biden and the leaders of Costa Rica, the Netherlands, and Zambia. The gathering will take place across 2 days starting March 29th next year, and according to a press release built on the first Summit for Democracy held in December 2021. The summit will demonstrate how transparent, accountable governance remains the best way to deliver lasting prosperity, peace, and justice. The second Summit for Democracy will assemble world leaders in a virtual plenary format, followed by hybrid gatherings in each of the countries featuring representatives from government, civil society, and the private sector. South Korea will chair the meeting for the Indo-Pacific region and share with the world its experiences in democratization and tackling corruption. Seoul's Unification Minister visited Panmunjom and reiterated the government's willingness to engage in talks with North Korea. The official emphasized that the main obstacle to overcome is the lack of trust. Our Han Sung-woo shares with us his remarks.
The Inter-Korean Truce Village of Panmunjom, the most symbolic remnant of the Korean War, a divided peninsula, and nearly 70 years of diplomatic efforts to achieve peace. On Tuesday, South Korea's Unification Minister Kwon Young-se made his first trip to Panmunjom since taking office. And there, after a guided tour provided by United Nations Command, reiterated in a mini briefing that the main reason for the vicious cycle of worsening inter-Korean ties is the lack of trust between the two Koreas.
The South Korean government harbors no hostility towards North Korea, and like past administrations, we are not pursuing unification by absorption. What's most important is to consistently work towards developing inter-Korean relations in a sustainable manner and bring to fruition a denuclearized Korean peninsula of peace and prosperity.
Kwon pledged to spare no effort in transforming Panmunjom from a symbol of division and tension into one of connection and collaboration, saying he hopes his visit leads to an improvement in ties. The minister asked once again that the North refrain from escalating tensions, return to dialogue, and begin negotiations for the Yoon Suk-yeol administration's so-called audacious initiative of drastically improving the North's economy and diplomatic situation in exchange for real steps toward denuclearization.
North Korea should no longer distort our government's sincerity towards developing bilateral relations and achieving peace on the peninsula. I look forward to a positive response to our proposal so that we can come face to face with each other and discuss inter-Korean affairs right here at Panmunjom.
Kwon Young-se's Panmunjom visit comes less than 2 weeks after North Korea fired an intercontinental ballistic missile toward the East Sea, its second such launch, just this month. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
South Korea's Prime Minister delivered a presentation to the World Expo's governing body to help with the country's bid to host the global event. At the BIE, Han Duck-soo stressed Busan is the ideal place to gather and address common challenges under the theme Transforming One World, Navigating Toward a Better Future.
The World Expo 2030 Busan will present a new kind of expo, a sustainable platform for all humanity to resolve our shared challenges together. Korea's journey has already begun. We hope you will join us on this journey in Busan 2030 and beyond.
During his trip to Paris, the PM plans to meet with the BIE members of Europe and Africa to seek support in Seoul's bid. The competition includes Italy, Saudi Arabia, and Ukraine. The winner will be announced next November. Ongoing protests in China against the country's zero COVID-19 prevention scheme have led to global figures voicing their concerns. The United States has reiterated its position in support of the peaceful protests, while the IMF said it's been recommending that China eases its curbs. Our Oh Soo-young has the latest.
United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken has reiterated his support for the ongoing protests in China against the country's strict zero-COVID policy.
When it comes to protests that we're seeing in China, protests that we're seeing for different reasons in Iran, in other places, our position is the same everywhere, which is that we support the right of people everywhere to peacefully protest, to make known their views, their concerns, and their frustrations.
The head of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, meanwhile, voiced her concerns regarding the negative effects China's antivirus curbs are inflicting on the world economy.
We have been recommending for some time now a recalibration of China's zero-COVID policy, exactly because of the impact it has both on people and on the economy.
A deadly fire last Thursday in Urumqi, the capital of the far western region of Xinjiang, killed at least 10 people in an apartment building, igniting protests nationwide after videos appeared to show lockdowns delaying firefighters from reaching victims in time. CNN reports the local government said it would gradually lift the measures without providing a clear time frame. Protesters holding symbolic blank sheets of paper have even demanded Chinese President Xi Jinping step down after having overseen the nation's virus prevention scheme for 3 years. While demonstrations in many areas have dispersed peacefully, other protesters have reportedly met stronger responses from Chinese police forces. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
While the World Cup in Qatar continues with little or no reference to COVID-19, the virus continues to make the headlines in other parts of the world. With infections rising as the Northern Hemisphere enters winter, we ask, how will countries fare as temperatures drop? We speak to our go-to Professor Howard Lee from Seoul National University's Department of Molecular Medicine and Biopharmaceutical Sciences. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning. Thank you for having me back.
Well, the Omicron variant emerged exactly a year ago, and the world saw another wave of COVID-19. Is there going to be another variant like Omicron that will put the world yet again under serious pressure from new infections?
Well, as you pointed out, 2022 was a year of the Omicron variants, which pushed out the Delta variant to the edge of the stage. The Omicrons were generally milder than the previous ones, including the Delta, although they were more transmissible and immune evasive, particularly for the recent subvariants such as BQ1 and BQ1.1, which are actually the child variants of BA.5. That said, however, a lab in South Africa recently identified a new variant that could cause worse illness than the current predominant Omicron strain. The new strain, after successive mutations, has been found to become more similar to the original version of the coronavirus found in Wuhan in China a long time ago. We don't know if this is or other new variants can become another Omicron in the future. But one thing is clear. Unlike our expectation, the COVID-19 virus is not attenuating. It is just evolving. And we do not know when its journey will end and where.
Right. Now, we just saw from the previous report, China's zero COVID-19 policy resulted in a rare open displays of anger from citizens there. Aside from the associated difficulties, is zero COVID a good way to approach the current pandemic situation from a science perspective?
Absolutely not. The so-called zero COVID policy in China had just one objective, which is to keep cases as low as possible, almost zero. To achieve this, China has implemented mass testing, quarantined the sick in government facilities, many times extremely inhumane, and imposed strict lockdowns that have expanded to entire cities. However, many Chinese have grown weary of the lengthy lockdowns and widespread testing. And this is why protests have erupted in all of the cities across China against the country's strict pandemic restrictions. Not only that, the zero COVID policy has come at a huge cost. For example, food shortage, economic turndown, and limitations in daily life and travel. That's not the end of the story. As it becomes more transmissible, COVID-19 cases are rising again in China. This has also led to growing public dissent against the government's strict containment policies. So, in a nutshell, the zero COVID policy is not something that is sustainable.
Right. And I want to talk about something that's kind of fresh news right now around the world. Twitter just rolled back its misinformation policy regarding COVID-19. As a result, users of the platform may be exposed to false claims from unqualified contributors. I just wanted to ask you, as you are a professor in this field, how important it is at this point that people get their information from credible sources. And as a doctor, where would you recommend people learn about COVID-19 and even general information about health?
Not only just Twitter, but all the social media are full of misinformation, which is sometimes harmful if unfiltered. This is particularly serious for situations like COVID, where misinformed people also infect others with wrong, unscientific, and unsubstantiated claims. In this regard, I strongly urge people to stay away from the social media, particularly for finding any information pertaining to COVID. Instead, go to an official government site. There are several available in South Korea right now, and the best one I found, also quite user-friendly as well, is the one run by the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, or KDCA.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your insights this morning, and hope you have a great day, Professor.
You too, sir. Thank you.
For a look at the news from around the world, we now turn to our Matthew Ashley standing by at the Arirang Newsroom. Good morning.
Good morning, Do-yeon.
Let's get the latest updates from the Qatar 2022 World Cup as England heads into the round of 16 after a dominating 3-0 win against neighbor Wales. Well, that is right. The match at Ahmed bin Ali Stadium on Tuesday local time saw England leave little room for Wales to mount an attack. It was a fixture where the Three Lions dominated most of the play, and following a goalless first half, the start of the second half saw England explode into life with 2 goals in quick succession. Now, the opener came from forward Marcus Rashford, whose 50th minute free kick sailed past the Welsh keeper. It was followed 1 minute later with Phil Foden putting the ball into the back of the net after a low cross from England captain Harry Kane. Rashford then got his second goal of the night in the 68th minute with a shot through the goalkeeper's legs. Now, the win means England will face Senegal next on Monday at 4 a.m. Korean time. Now, staying with Group B, as the United States is also through to the knockout phase of the tournament following a tense 1-0 win against Iran. Christian Pulisic scored the winning goal in the 38th minute, tapping in a header across the goal from fullback Sergiño Dest. But the opener came at a cost as the Chelsea player crashed into Iranian goalkeeper Ali Berenvand to see his goal through. The incident saw Pulisic being taken out of play at half-time due to the injury. Now, Iran only needed a draw to advance to the round of 16, but couldn't find an equalizer in the second half. Now, the Netherlands finished top of Group A and undefeated after a 2-0 victory over Qatar. It was Qatar's 3rd consecutive defeat in the group stages, the worst performance for a host nation at the World Cup. The Netherlands' first goal came from Cody Gakpo in the first half with a low strike. The first minutes of the second half then saw Frenkie de Jong cement the win. At the same time, Senegal managed to grab a place in the next round, knocking Ecuador out of the running. The West African country opened the scoring with a penalty from Ismaila Sarr. Ecuador managed to level the score in the 67th minute with a goal by Moises Caicedo, but Senegal then got the winner in the 70th minute with a goal from Kalidou Koulibaly. And finally, a quick look at some of the upcoming World Cup fixtures. The next 4 matches see teams in Groups C and D play their final group stage games. Kicking things off are 2 matches from Group D, and both starting on Thursday at 12 a.m. Korea time. France, already through to the next round, takes on Tunisia, who must win for a chance of qualifying for the round of 16. At the same time, second in the group standings, Australia faces Denmark. Denmark needs to beat Australia, while a draw will be enough for the Socceroos to go through, should Tunisia fail to beat France. Then at 4 a.m., 2 matches from Group C, where it's still all to play for. Top of the group, Poland faces second place Argentina. Saudi Arabia takes on Mexico in the other match. Now, a win for Poland, Argentina or Saudi Arabia would guarantee them a spot in the next round, while Mexico could still qualify with a win, depending on the score in the other Group C match.
Good morning. Hope you're well bundled up for a big freeze this morning. Morning lows in the upper parts of the country have dropped more than 15 degrees Celsius compared to yesterday, with a cold wave warning issued, and sharp winds are no help. Well, Seoul saw the season's first snow last night, which fell 9 days later than normal and 19 days later than last year. Meanwhile, the West Coast is seeing light snow this morning. And until tomorrow, west of Jeollabuk-do and mountains regions on Jeju could see more than 7 centimeters of snowfall, with a heavy snow advisory could be issued, with 1 to 3 centimeters in West Coast, so please drive with care. Afternoon highs remain on the freezing side at -3 degrees Celsius here in the capital, right on the freezing mark in Daejeon. It will be colder tomorrow morning, then there will be a slight rise in temperatures this weekend, but we'll be seeing colder than average temperatures during the first week of December. With that, here's a look at the weather conditions around the globe.
And that wraps up today's New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for our Thursday's edition at the same time. Please stay with Arirang News, though, for more updates throughout the day. Have a lovely day or evening wherever you are, and take care.
백서